to take this opportunity to welcome you to this morning class. This is Primary 6, which will be handled by Teacher Ben, as usual. For me, I will be dealing with integrated science. So I want to ask everyone to feel free to participate. When you want to ask a question, please feel free to raise up your hand and I will be able to answer you instantly, as long as it is within what we are covering today. So feel free. So for those who, as long as you want to speak, the way to go is to raise up your hand if you want to speak. If I ask you to give the answer, you just raise up your hand, or write in the chat if I ask you to do so. As simple as that. So without wasting much of our time, last week, or rather the previous weeks, we have been handling resources in the environment. Under resources in the environment, we have been able to look at the types of resources, where we talked about renewable resources and the non-renewable resources. We were also able to give different examples of renewable resources and also the examples of the non-renewable resources. We also agreed that we shall be looking at those resources one by one. Some of these resources include plants, animals, the sun, wind, water, and the non-renewable resources include minerals, rocks, petroleum, coal, and so many other examples of the non-renewable resources. So we are going to look at them one by one. So today, we are basically going to discuss very many things, but starting with one of the non-renewable resource, and that is rocks. We shall know what a rock is or what rocks are. We shall also move ahead and talk about the fossils, what fossils are. We shall look at the uses of rocks. We shall also have a short activity that we shall do, but you will do it in your books later. And then we shall introduce something new, and that is alloys. We shall talk about alloys, examples of alloys. We shall also look at the importance of making alloys. We shall look at alloying, galvanization, and so forth. So that is what we intend to discuss today. And I want each one of you to feel free and participate so that we can move on. We need to finish up this topic. We are remaining with some few lessons so that we can say bye to resources in the environment. And we shall start with a new topic that we shall agree on. So that's it for now. So let's start straight away with rocks. What are rocks? Or what is a rock? What are rocks? If you have an idea, please do type it in the chat so that we can move on successfully. What are rocks? I see someone saying you didn't receive the work. I sent the work in the group. So what are rocks? Or what is a rock? Anyone with an idea? I think nobody has an idea about a rock. Then you may need to have a look at this. This is something that you can say about a rock. In case you're asked what a rock is, you can simply say that that is that. But just said something about a rock, that are minerals mined from underground, may not be necessarily true. That's it. So let me ask someone to read first this definition of a rock. What is a rock? Nisi? What is a rock? Can you read?
A rock is made up of many minerals tightly packed to form a solid.
As simple as that. A rock is made up of many minerals tightly packed together to form a solid. As simple as. So in case they ask you to define a rock, you will simply say that. So where do we find rocks from? Most of us live in mountainous places and we have seen rocks there. And there are those small hills that we may think sometimes that they are mountains, but they are just rocks. So these ones are just made up of minerals tightly packed together to form a solid, as simple as that. So there are very many minerals tightly packed together, and then they form what we call something solid, which we call a rock. And a rock is something very hard, very hard. As simple as that. So when we continue, we shall look at different types of rocks also. We shall look at different types of rocks also. So what are fossils? What are fossils? I have already given here. So I want to Karen to read first what fossils are. What are fossils? This I explained even last time, what fossils are. Karen? What are fossils? Okay, Melissa's raised her hand. Yes, Melissa?
Fossils are remains of plants and animals that had lived many years ago.
That had lived many years ago, as simple as that. So what could be the examples of these remains? Here we have said remains of plants and animals. For the case of the plants, these ones decompose, they rot, and then they form mostly humus. They decompose and they form humus. What about for animals? What are these remains that we always get? That we always get underground. Which remains are these from animals? From plants, we get roots, stems, and leaves. What about for animals? What about for animals? For animals, Rachel has said skulls, which is true. She has typed hers in the chat. She has said skulls. We also have from Blessing. She has talked about teeth and bones. Very good. And yeah, I think those are the things that we always get for the side of animals. We usually get bones, the teeth, the skulls, but all that is classified under bones. Melissa has written bones, but the spelling of bones, check that spelling. That spelling you've given is for producing, bearing a child. Vanessa has talked about humus. We get humus from plants, dead plants. And then for the case of Nisi, has talked about flesh. For flesh, we don't get it because it rots. So you cannot know that. Someone also gave us another definition of a rock. That is ambrose. He said that is a hard solid material that forms part of the surface of the Earth and some other planets. The answer is very correct. The answer is very correct. So let's move on and talk about the uses of rocks. Uses of rocks. Let's utilize the chart. Uses of rocks. Uses of rocks in our community. Uses of rocks in our communities. What are some of the uses of rocks? What are some of the uses of rocks? Yes, Hema, good answer. Eva, good answer. Emma, very good. Another person? Nisi has also talked about the same. Vanessa, the same thing. The answer is correct. Ambrose, the answer is correct. Nisi, can you please mute your microphone? If you want to speak from home, please make sure your microphone is mute so that we don't hear what you're discussing.
My microphone is muted.
Again, you speak after I say something. Please, let's not disorganize our lesson. Let's move on successfully. So we are talking about the uses of rocks, and most of you have talked about one major point, and that is rocks providing us with raw materials for construction. That is what everyone has talked about mostly. These are the uses. One, rocks contain minerals, which we talked about from our definition of rocks. We say that these ones are made up of many minerals tightly together, packed together. So here you would have just got one of the use of rocks from that definition, saying rocks contain minerals, as simple as that. The other one is, you can also say rocks describe the Earth's history. Of history. And then lastly, this is what you talked about. Most of you talked about this one. Rocks are used as raw materials for construction. You can construct different things. Roads, you can construct using the rocks. You can also construct houses using rocks and so many other things. With rocks, there are different particles of rocks or types of rocks that we use for construction. We have aggregate, which we use for making the foundation. Aggregate and the hard core. The hard core is this one with the bigger particles. That is hard core for the foundation and usually road construction. Then there is the aggregate. We can use it for still leveling the foundation. And then there is the other small one called the lintel. One is used for the ring beam, usually. Simple as that. So that is basically what we need to talk about. Then this assignment, you will do it during your free time. You want someone to read for us that question? Yes, Nisi. Yes.
Write anyone in which
You first unmute, then you speak. I see your hand up, but okay, let's give chance to Vanessa. Vanessa.
Write any one way in which each of the following can be used as a resource: water, sun, soil, air.
As simple as that. So you give one way for each, how each of these is used as a resource in the environment. Number 2 is here. I need another person to read first this. Yes, Melissa.
How can rocks be useful to people? Give one way.
As simple as that. Then the other one can be read by Karen.
Briefly explain the terms fossil.
Briefly explain the term fossils. As simple as that. So that's what you may need to do in your books, and you submit. Some of you have very poor handwritings. Please make sure you try to improve on your handwriting, so that when you submit, you're confident of your work that you're submitting. As simple as that. So the next thing that we are going to talk about is alloys. We need to know what alloys are. Some of you might be knowing the right definition of alloys. What are alloys? So if you know the answer, please type it in the chat and I will be able to see what are alloys. That's the next thing that we need to talk about. What are alloys? Or what is an alloy? What is an alloy? As I told you that we shall be talking about alloys, we shall also give examples of alloys, and we move on like that. So what are alloys? What are alloys? Some people still added as the uses of rocks. I see them here. Oh, Ambrose has given us one very good answer. Hema, good answer. David Alexander, very good. So we have almost the same answer. Everyone is giving the same answer. An alloy is a mixture of two or more metals, as simple as that. And this part of resources is commonly set. It is highly examinable, so you need to understand this very well. If they ask you what alloys are, what is an alloy? Simply say is a mixture of two or more metals. Mixture of two or more metals. What if someone talks about alloying? Alloying. If someone talks about alloying, what would you say? Alloying. If we say alloying, what is alloying? What is alloying? What is alloying? We have said an alloy is a mixture of two or more metals. What about alloying? Good. David has given us very correct answer. Alloying is the mixing of two or more metals. So the difference is just here. Instead of saying mixture, you say mixing. Alloying is the mixing of two or more metals. Even Emma has given us the same, but he didn't correct. I didn't finish. Rachel, the same thing. Give us correct one. As simple as that. So if they talk about alloying, you still give the same answer. There is also what we call galvanization. What is galvanization? What is galvanization? Princess Karen, good answer. What is galvanization? Let me type it here. What is galvanization? What is galvanization? What is galvanization? Nobody seems to be giving this one. Galvanization is the coating of a metal with zinc metal. I'll be asking you after some time. Galvanization is the coating of a metal with zinc metal. I'll be asking you after some time that same definition. So let's move on to talk about other things, and that is the examples of alloys. So we say that an alloy is a mixture of two or more metals. What are the examples? Can we give the examples of alloys? Let's utilize the chart. Examples of alloys. Examples of alloys. Martha, good. Good answer. Melissa, good answer. Ambrose, good. Emma, good. Blessing, not really. Nisi, good. Lubega, good answer. Martha has given us another. Good. Vanessa, good. Vanshika, good. Emma, not really. Shivan, no. What Emma has given and Shivan, they have given the metals that we use to make alloys. We shall also write there, and we shall list the examples of metals that we use to make alloys. Even Nisi, silver is not. Silver is one of the best conductors of electricity, and we don't use it for making alloys. It is not even an alloy. Melissa, good answer. Melissa, good answer. Ambrose, good answer. David has talked about magnesium, which is not right. Lubega, good answer. Stout, good. Rachel, good. So let's move on and talk about this. Let me show you what you have been able to mention. And most of you have been able to give a very, very correct answers. The first one is brass. Very correct. And you also talked about that. Tomorrow or next week, when we are meeting again, we are going to look at this. Which metals help us to get brass? Because we say that alloys, this one is just mixing two or more metals. So which metals will help us to get brass? Which metals will help us to get brass? Which metals will help us to get brass? I see even the hand up already from two people. I've raised their hands already. Let me hear from Pretty Win. Pretty.
Zinc.
Zinc and what?
Copper.
Zinc and copper. That's according to Pretty. Good. What about, I see Melissa's hand up. Melissa, what do you have to say?
Teacher, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, that's good. That is good. Okay, let's move on to another thing. So we are talking about examples of alloys. It's good that you have been able to mention these examples of alloys. You've talked about brass. You also talked about bronze. You also talked about bronze. So which metals do we mix to get bronze? We are going to look at this. Still, we shall have to draw a table in the next lesson, and we shall be able to know which metals are these. But I see already some people have raised their hands up, but I need to give them opportunity. Let me first give this chance to Martha. Yes, Martha.
Copper, zinc, and tin.
Come again.
Copper, zinc, and tin.
Very good. Copper, zinc, and tin. As simple as that. Very wonderful class. So let's move on to this one. The capronickel. Capronickel. This one seems to be new to everyone because no one gave this answer. I was surprised. I saw nobody giving the answer. I said, maybe it is a new one for everybody. So we shall be able to talk about that when we meet in detail. There is also this one. We have solder. This one also is the one which is always used in the welding companies or welding workshops. They use the solder for joining metals for welding. They use it for welding, joining metals together. So that one called solder. So what are the metals that are used to make solder? Which metals do we use to make solder? Which metals do we use to make solder? I'm happy that some people are using the chat. That's good. David, good answer. We have Hazard, good answer. Alexander, good answer. Hema's good answer. Van Schika, very good. Vanessa, no. Aluminium, no. I don't know which one is that. Nabire, solder, lead, and tin. Hema, lead, and tin, good. There must be always two metals that are mixed together to get what we call an alloy. To get what we call an alloy. And also when you're giving the answer, at least you put there this metal and this. Let's take, for example, copper, zinc, and tin gives you bronze. So you put like that, gives us bronze, so that we can easily move on successfully. As simple as that. So let's move on. Good enough. We are going to see that later. After this, we shall see whether it was true when we mix copper and the zinc that we get this. So we shall get to know that. But I like the class because it is a very wonderful class. We are participating actively. And if we were having enough time, we would be just speaking. We'd be giving everybody to speak. But because of time moves so fast, and it has gone. We also have dentist amalgam. Dentist amalgam. Dentist amalgam. Which metals do we use to get this dentist amalgam? Which metals do we use to get the dentist amalgam? Yes. Yes. I need the. Okay. I need the. There are two people who have raised their hands. There are two people who have raised their hands. Maybe I can give to Ambrose. Yes, Ambrose.
Mercury and copper.
Mercury and copper. Is that the same answer that Martha wanted to say?
Yes.
Very good. So the answer is correct. Mercury and copper gives us a dentist amalgam. As simple as that. So after you've spoken, you remember to mute your microphone and also lower the hand so that I can know that there is no more question. But if you have a question to ask, you feel free to raise up your hand. Yeah, everybody should at least be able to participate, even though you're not going to speak, but make sure you write the answer in the chat. As simple as that. Like some people have already used the chat to give us the answer. And some have just talked about Mercury only. Martha, check your spelling of Mercury. You missed something. So make sure you're very keen with your spellings, because if you don't really write good spellings, you may not really get very good marks. So at least all of these alloys that you see, there are more than two. There are two or more metals that we mix in order to get them. So don't write only one. If you write like mercury only or copper only, it doesn't help us to make the alloy that we are talking about. So you have to be able to say mercury and copper gives us this, gives us dentist amalgam. So that is what you need to do. You give two, because from our definition, we say that alloys are a mixture of two or more metals. Mixture of two or more metals. So there is no way you should say that mercury alone. If you give mercury alone, then that's not a mixture. We are asking which metals do we use to get this. So be able to say mercury. If it is dentist amalgam, be able to say mercury and copper. If it is dentist amalgam, be able to say mercury and copper. As simple as that. But maybe if we say that, mention any one metal that we use to make dentist amalgam, then that's when you can feel free to say mercury or copper. Someone is asking a question from the chat. Someone is saying, that is Nabire, Melissa, that is it true? Is it true? Is it true different alloys are made from steel? Different alloys are made from steel. What do you think? What do you think? I want to start from Melissa. What do you think? Melissa, what do you think?
So I'm not sure.
Okay, she's not sure. Who could be having the answer? Who could be knowing the answer? Princess has said yes. Could you please explain your yes, Princess? Why do you say yes? Can you explain that? Okay, so the question was, is it true that different alloys are made of steel? Made of steel, and someone told us that it is true. Yes, Karen. Okay, we can continue. If there is nothing to say, then we can continue. It is true that different alloys are made of steel. Why do we say so? Because for the case of steel, steel helps to prevent all metals that are made up of steel help to prevent rusting. And yet when you look at alloys, you get to realize that alloying metals, mixing two or more metals helps also to prevent rusting. But not all, it is also not true that all these metals, all these alloys are made up of steel. Though steel does not allow rusting, but doesn't mean that they are made up of steel. Not all of them are made up of steel. Sometimes people mention steel as an alloy of its own. But when you look at brass is made up of only two metals, but we don't see there steel. We don't see there steel, even bronze like that. So for that question, just look at the examples of these alloys, and then you get to realize that, oh, it is not true, though someone says that it is true. The reason why people bring the argument that, yeah, it is true, because for steel, it doesn't allow rusting to occur. When we continue, we shall be discussing more about that, more and more about that. So these are the examples of the alloys. When we meet next time, we are going to look at that table, which shows us everything, the uses of these alloys, the examples of metals that are used to make these alloys, and so on, and so on. So we shall get to know more about that. Thank you so much for the question. Yes, Pretty. Yes, Pretty. I was seeing your hand up. Okay. So let's move on and look at another thing, and that is the
It
impotence.
was by mistake.
Okay, let's move on. Let's look at the importance of making alloys. Importance of making alloys. Let's utilize our chart and give the importance of making alloys. Importance of making alloys. If you know the importance of making alloys, let's utilize our chart. Emma was also asking, can we mix alloys? I have not yet experienced that, mixing alloys. We have not yet experienced that. Favor has said that they are sold to get income. But Gabriel has given us a very correct one. It makes metals more resistant. Very good. Rachel has said, has given us a good answer. Hathy has also given us a good answer. Thank you. Ambrose, good answer. Thank you. Vanessa, this one is, Vanessa has given us a social studies answer. In social studies, we give answers like that one. That for tourist attraction, which is a source of income, and you find them marking correct. but it is not true. For science, we don't have such answers. Rachel has given us another one. Good. For princess, make sure you give a statement. Don't just put there rusted. How do we know now that you've given the right answer? Please say that alloying prevents, so they help to prevent rusting. Like the way as Stuart has said. Yes, Melissa has also said that these ones are used for making coins, which is true. Alexander, very good answer. Changes the melting point of metals. Very good. Ambrose, very good answer. To increase the electrical resistivity of metals. Good. Yeah, Princess has now put it as a statement. Good. Hema, good answer. So thank you so much, everyone who has been able to give the answer. Melissa has talked about bullets, stabbing cases for bullets. It's true, copper is used for making bullets. Van Schicker, making coins and preventing rusting. Good. Nondo has not completed this one. Pretty good. Okay, thank you so much for the good participation. Let's take a look at a few of these importance of alloys that we are to talk about, or we have been talking about. One, it's good you mentioned this one. Alloys make the metal harder. Good. Alloys make the metal harder. When you mix two or more metals, the metal, the alloy that you're going to get will be harder, very hard. The other one is alloys lower the melting point of metals. When you heat it, it doesn't melt so easily. When you heat it, doesn't melt so easily. It doesn't melt. You just see it moving. Whether it is hot like what, until the required temperature is met. So alloys lower the melting point of metals. Let's move on. The other one is alloys make the tear and wear of metals difficult. Alloys make wear and tear of metals difficult. So let's keep our microphones mute so that we don't cause disorganization. So let's hear from, I saw somebody's hand up, but she has lowered. That was Martha, but it's okay. We can continue. So when you mix two or more metals, it means that your metals may not wear and tear so easily. It makes them really stay longer. Okay. Then the other one is alloys prevent metals from rusting. Then we have what we call alloying. This one, we already said something about alloying. We said something about alloying. So I want to choose randomly somebody to give us what we said about alloying. Yes, Lubega. Lubega, can you tell us what we said about alloying? Because we defined this last time, so I hope everyone can give us the answer. What is alloying? Yes, Lubega? Lubega is not giving us the answer. Let's hear from Hema. Hema or Hema. Please, Hema, if you can give us the answer, what is alloying? Hema is not speaking. Okay, let me give someone who is ready. That is Nisi. Yes, Nisi.
Alloying is the mixing of two or more metals.
Alloying is the mixing of two or more metals. As simple as that. Another question. The answer is correct. Mixing of two or more metals together. Then the other one is galvanization. What is galvanization? Vanessa? Vanessa, what is galvanization? Yes, Shivani, I mean. Shivani, what is
Galvanization is the covering of is the coating of metallic materials with zinc metal.
Good. Galvanization is a coating of zinc metal, a coating of metals with zinc metal. That is the answer. Galvanization is a coating of metals with a zinc metal. That's a good and wonderful answer. This is a coating of a metal with zinc metal. As simple as that. So sometimes they can ask you to give them the uses of to give the reasons why galvanization and alloying are important. You give the same importance of alloying that we talked about. The only thing is you will say galvanization and alloying help to prevent rusting. Galvanization and alloying helps to make metals harder, like that. If they combine two of them. If they don't combine two of them, then it's okay. Now we have a question here. Why are iron sheets galvanized? Or why should iron sheets be galvanized? Why should iron sheets be galvanized? So iron sheets, why should iron sheets be galvanized? Why should they be galvanized? Yes, Vanessa?
To prevent them from rusting.
Good, to prevent them from rusting. Another person, yes, Martha? You unmute, then speak.
That's the same answer I want to give.
Okay, that's the same answer that she wanted to give. Yes, Karen?
To make them stronger and prevent rusting.
Good, to make them stronger. Stuart, do you have another answer?
Only to make them harder from my school.
Good, to make them harder. That is very good. So these are the same answers that I have here: to prevent iron sheets from rusting. Good. And then lastly, to make iron sheets harder. As simple as that. So let's move on. We are left with just almost 1 minute to go. So we are looking at metals used to make alloys. These metals include, please, let's try to be organized, orderly. Let's be orderly by keeping our microphones mute. So we are talking about the metals used to make alloys. These are the metals. We have copper, zinc, tin, lead, and mercury. So those are the few examples, the main examples of metals that we use to make alloys. You just combine these ones. This and this gives you the other. This and this gives you the other, like that. And then you move on. So this is basically that what I wanted us to share to them. You have been a very wonderful class. I really don't feel like leaving the class, but because of time, there is nothing to do. Our friends, the Hema, Van Shika, they gave us the answers of alloying and galvanization in the chat. That is very, very good. So I want to wish you a very wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. And if possible, find ways of accessing this work in the site so that we don't leave you behind. Thank you so much. I want to wish you a very, very nice weekend. Thank you so much for being a good class. Someone is trying to spoil our screen. So thank you so much for attending. We meet next time. But there is a hand here, Martha.
Teacher, I did not get the first activity. I did not write it down.
I'm going to send the work via WhatsApp. I'll send the work. Okay. Okay, our time is up.
Teacher,
Yes, please.
today the last day of free lessons.
Yeah, today